Happy Saturday, guys. How are you? Welcome into the latest edition of the Daily Juice Podcast. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me on Twitter at Sports Talk Matt. Every morning on YouTube for video, anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Always being brought to you by BetMGM. You get the $10 offer above me here on YouTube. $10 to win $150. Any event, use that promo code JUICE150 at BetMGM, BetMGM.com. Promo code JUICE150. All right, so yesterday was a mess. Just a mess. All right, I'm not going to recap much because the hockey bet was wrong. Oilers aren't going to win on the puck line, although they're in the third period right now, so I guess maybe they can come back. Warriors are up big, but let's see if they cover. I had to tape this because it's getting late, but I've never seen a university do what Boston College did with their quarterback, Phil Jurkovec, who came back after a broken hand, but up to like a half an hour prior to the game, their athletic director was tweeting out pictures of an empty locker for Phil Jurkovec. Like, what was going on? Like, it was so weird, but it was the right move to punt out of all those bets because, as I said last night, it was a bet made on Jurkovec not playing, and once he played, get out. The under was still the right play, but so if you were stuck on it, you went 1-1, so you're down the juice. But I punted out of everything and just no harm, no foul on any of those wagers. So it's probably a 1-1 night, but just kind of a mess with what happened on Friday night. So let me get right into this, okay? I don't want this podcast to be too long. I really want to be kind of succinct here and give you a bunch of plays. I'm going to be committed. It's in a word. I'm going to be committed here to a couple of plays, and I may add, remember, we have the Discord channel conversation on Saturday morning on the Discord channel, 11 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 a.m. on the West Coast for our Discord bet. We've missed the last two of those. Hopefully you guys can find me a winner here so we can make some money together. And, you know, maybe you like that Liberty under against Ole Miss or lay the 10 with Ole Miss. I don't know. Or maybe you take the over for A&M and Auburn. Maybe a game I'm going to add myself. But just some little, things you might want to think about coming up for the Discord bet coming up here for today. But you also have the Circa chat conversation and 2 and 3 last week, I believe it was, for the Circa team, for the Daily Juice team. So hopefully we come back and we get a winning week. We'll do that at 3 p.m. Eastern time, noon Pacific on the Discord channel. So reminder on those two things. It will happen Saturday like they always do. But let's get right into it. So I gave you Justin Gaethje by knockout, half a unit on Gaethje by knockout against his opponent coming up at UFC 268 in New York up against Michael Chandler. I knew people would disagree with that, but that's fine. That's the nature of things, okay? So what am I doing with the other half unit there? I'm going to go and I'm going to take, and again, I can't get into all this because I don't have time. I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing, okay? I'm taking Rose Namajunas to win and keep her belt. I think she gets the second win. Striking power, I think she just is a tough matchup for Wei Li. I think we're taking it's a minus 110 on either side. I know Rose shocked some people, but I think Thug Rose is just in a different space right now. So I'm taking Rose, but I'm parlaying that with Phil Hawes in his fight coming up here. I think he's a big favorite. Let's see what's the number now for him. He was a minus 300 last time I checked on this, and he should be. We're taking Hawes at Circa Sports is minus 305 against Chris Curtis. Big matchup. Big mismatch in size here. A much bigger body, bigger fighter. Hawes to get the victory. Rose to get the victory. It's a plus 150 parlay on the other side of that half a unit, okay? So half unit on Gaethje by knockout, and we're taking a Rose and Hawes parlay for a half a unit at UFC 268. We go to the headline fight between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. Man alive. So I was there the last time this fight happened, and Colby Covington is a very good fighter. And these two guys may be the two best in the world in the weight class that they're in. I don't like that Kamaru Usman started talking about Canelo Alvarez. I don't like that we're having these cross-sport conversations because Usman's strength, he's becoming a better striker. He's not a boxer, man. He's not a boxer. He doesn't have boxing skills. He can punch, but he can't move like a boxer. He moves like a mixed martial artist. I mean, it's just dumb. So I know he wants big money fights. But I think there's something to be said for him trying to talk about what's going to happen because I think he knows he's got Covington's number. And the books also agree that he's got Covington's number. At the time of taping, we're up to minus 285 for Kamaru Usman here to get the victory. Now, the total for this fight is 3.5, okay? I think you got to shop around here on this, but I think Usman does win this fight, all right? I think he wins this fight via knockout. And I think it happens, somewhere around the third, fourth, or fifth round. Usman by knockout is plus 170, okay? We're going half a unit on this, okay? Half a unit on Usman by knockout to stop Colby Covington. Colby takes a lot of damage. Look, Usman hasn't been hurt, or I guess Burns hurt him, but he hasn't been stopped yet in the UFC. He's an absolute monster in this weight class, and he just, until somebody beats him, I don't think you can fade this guy. I just think he's very confident in his abilities for a reason, and he's nearly a 3-1 favorite for a reason, okay? He's won 16 straight fights. It's just insane what this guy has been able to do. Masvidal, Burns, Covington, Woodley. The only fight that Covington's had between the first fight and this fight is a washed-up Tyron Woodley. That's not really training. It's not really getting in there and actually fighting. That's running your mouth and trying to be a puppet. And I think that's why Usman knows this. So I think Usman's going to stop him, okay? I like Usman at plus 170 for a half a unit via knockout. And on the other half a unit, we're going to go in on the over. It's minus 145 right here on the over, but we're going over 3.5 rounds. Again, the fight ended in the 5th round, and I think it could end in the 4th or 5th round again. In the championship rounds, I think that's where the damage starts to really mount. Look, Covington's tough, okay? And that fight was going to the cards. It was going to be a decision, and then who knows? It may have been a 3-2 decision. I think Usman wins on the cards, but that's a different story here. You don't want to leave it up to the judges. I don't think it goes to the judges this time. I think the fight stops before that. If you want to go and bet this just inside the distance, Usman inside the distance is plus 140. So you could do that. But if Covington wins on the cards, you know what I mean? So, this is a little bit of an insurance policy in case the TKO and the knockout doesn't happen and it goes to the cards and Covington wins. You got the over 3.5. That's kind of like a check. So you win back a little of your money. So it's not a complete and total 1-unit loss. So it's a little bit of a hedge on this, but I think the over 3.5 rounds for this fight. I think, given the durability of both men, I don't think this thing ends early. I think it could end in the 4th or the 5th rounds, but I think Usman knocks him out. Look, the Masvidal knockout shocked everybody, right? So again, the plus 170, if that knockout happens fast and Usman knocks out Covington, well then we've got plus 170. We'll lose the over 3.5, but we got nearly 2-1 coming back, so it covers it. So it's kind of a way of playing off both. And maybe in the 4th round, Usman knocks him out. We win both bets, and then we're up nearly 2 units on the play. So I like that a lot. So we're going Usman TKO plus 170, Usman by KO plus 170, and the over 3.5 for a half a unit. All right. So we got 2 full units in play here for UFC 268. We're going Justin Gaethje by knockout over Michael Chandler, half a unit. Rose and Hawes parlay on the other half a unit at plus 150. Usman by TKO at plus 170, and the over 3.5 in the main event. Okay. So let's go to boxing. And by the way, I do have college football to give you here in a second, so hold on. Canelo versus Caleb Plant. And look, I love Caleb Plant. He's 21-0 with 12 KOs. All right. Here's the thing, okay? Just hear me out a little bit on this. I got a bunch of personal stuff going. Canelo's going to knock out Caleb Plant, all right? He's going to knock him out. But Caleb Plant falters later in fights. He runs out of gas, essentially what you could say, okay? He's not as durable. He's not his training is not as long. He'll slow down in the later rounds. That is when I think Canelo Alvarez will catch him. All right, Canelo Alvarez has won fights. The total of this fight round is 9.5, okay? Canelo has won fights recently pretty quick. But if you go back and look at what's happened for some of the fights over the last couple of rounds, couple of times for Canelo, you start looking at where Canelo has been, and he has been beating up on lesser opponents, all right? Billy Joe Saunders should have lasted. The eye exploded, all right? That's the last time we saw Canelo with that wicked uppercut where Billy Joe Saunders was dipping down and that uppercut caught him in the eye and exploded his eye and broke his orbital bone. That ended the fight. Before that, I mean, Caleb Smith, he should have walked through Caleb Smith. Decision. Didn't do it. He knocked out Kovalev late. And I mean late. I was there. He was playing with Kovalev for a really long time, then finally knocked him out. Daniel Jacobs did knock him out. Went to decision with Daniel Jacobs. He knocked out Rocky Felding really early, but who the hell is Rocky Felding, right? I mean, like, come on. And then you get into the Triple G fights, right? Back-to-back Triple G fights and split decision, majority decision. I mean, they go to the cards, right? He knocked out Liam Smith, all right, and he knocked out Amir Khan. I was there for the Amir Khan fight, and that was a 6th round with Amir Khan, and Liam Smith, he cleaned him out pretty early, but I just think people are sleeping a little bit on the talents of Caleb Plant. Now, here's the one thing. Everyone's saying that Canelo is mad. Caleb Plant's talking about steroids and cheating, and which is all factual. Like, it's factual. But he's all angry. It's personal this time. They slapped each other. All right, look, I'm going to say this. If Canelo comes out and fights unlike Canelo, if he's like wild man early and going for a knockout in the 1st or 2nd round, watch the left hook, okay? Watch Caleb Plant with the left hook and the check left hook. He's really good with the left hook, okay? I've really been impressed. I watched a couple of his fights. This is a punch that I think, against Caleb Truex, he was really good with his left hand. Just kind of jabbing, feeling, and then in came the opponent, came Truex, and he just would kind of jab him, and then he'd hit him hard. He would throw one light and then 1, 2, really hard, back-to-back, 3 hooks in a row. If Canelo is charging and throwing that right hand, that's where that left hook comes in. He can check it. So I don't think that Caleb Plant can knock out Canelo, but he can sting him. And if he stings him, that's where the fight really starts to slow down, because Canelo by nature is a conservative fighter, okay? He likes to take his meat into deep water and drown him. That's what he likes to do. It's what we did to Kovalev, right? He just lasted him. He took him. He knew that it was a heavier fight, heavier weight, took him into deep water, and then caught him with a body shot. Kovalev was hurt by it. He went back to the body shot. Kovalev dropped down, trying to protect, and he got caught right across the chin, and that's what ended the fight. Watch that. Watch the body work for Canelo. If Caleb Plant is reacting and dropping down because he can't stop the body work, Canelo eventually will fake and come upstairs, and that's how he ends fights. Okay, that's what he did to Amir Khan. He was body. Khan dropped down, and then smack. And I was ringside for that fight, and that sounded like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. It was crazy how hard that guy got hit. He was knocked in the next year. It's one of the most famous knockouts, and he just went poof, down. It was over. I think Canelo knocked him out. I do. So I'm going to have Canelo on a bunch of parlays, personal plays. I'm doing it. But I think the fight, it happens in rounds 10, 11, or 12. I think it happens when I think you're going to see Plant slow down. It'll be all the damage, the accumulation of the damage, and then Caleb Plant gets knocked out by Canelo. He may get knocked down. I just think he has a chance here. I think Caleb Plant has a chance to stick around. He's 21-0. He's never lost, okay? This is a dude who does not get hurt all that often, but his fights go to the cards a lot. Truex to the cards. Let's see. Of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights, all but 2 have gone to the cards. Okay? He's not fighting the biggest, most highly touted guys, but he's got a belt. Okay, Caleb Plant is a belt holder. Okay, so this is a unification bout, and this is a huge fight. I think Canelo will be a little bit more cautious than people think, and I think this thing goes into the 10th round. We're going over 9.5 for 1 unit. Canelo versus Caleb Plant to go over at -120 to go over. There's a shot this thing goes the distance. I mean, I think there is. I really do. I do think in the late rounds, 10, 11, 12, I do think a knockout's going to happen. I will have Canelo by knockout, but it's -200. Canelo by knockout. Like, there's no real value. You have to parlay that, and I don't want to give out parlays like crazy. So, I have a Michaela Mayer, Kamaru Usman, and Canelo Alvarez 3-leg money line parlay going into tonight. At the time of taping, Mayer's fighting right now, but I can't see Mayer losing. Maybe she will, but I can't see her losing. I'm doing things like that personally throughout the day with some of these parlays with UFC stuff, but that's where we're going. Okay, so the combat sports card, okay? Canelo over 9.5, Usman by knockout, over 3.5, Usman Covington, Rose and Hawes parlay, and Gaethje by knockout. Those are the plays for combat sports here on a Saturday night. Let's talk college football, okay? I only have 2 plays here on college football, and they're all in the same game. I told you I didn't like much. I didn't like this. I'm going to North Carolina in Wake Forest. There's only one game that I'm eyeballing here all day, and that's the 8-0 Demon Deacons on the road at North Carolina. I told you guys I prepped on North Carolina all year long, all summer long, was looking at Carolina, was looking at Sam Howell. Here's the thing, man. North Carolina, we took Kent State at home, laying 3.5 points against Northern Illinois, who was undefeated in their conference on Tuesday, and they won and they covered. This is the same shot here, okay? This is an undefeated team in Wake Forest, top 10 team with a big old target on their back. This is not a conference game, which is, I don't need to get into that, but very strange. But Carolina has played a much tougher schedule than Wake Forest has played, all right? Much tougher. North Carolina can score. That's what we know. North Carolina can score with the best of them here, okay? We know they're capable of putting up big numbers on pretty much anybody that they're going to wind up playing. There's a lot of people who are saying that Wake Forest is going to come up here and this is their time to make people, to announce their presence. And here comes, at 10-0, they're going to justify themselves. They're 4-4 against the number so far this year. They've covered their last 2 games against Duke and Army, but everyone covers against Duke. Last 3 games in a row for Carolina, they have not covered. They've lost 2 of the 3 to Florida State, home against Miami. They won the game by 3 as 7.5-point favorites, and they were on the road losing by 10 against Notre Dame, all right? But this is going to be a game where I think both teams are going to look to run the football, which is kind of strange, right? I mean, throwing the ball is great, but running the football is going to be – throwing the ball for Carolina is what they do, but you can run on Wake Forest, man. I mean, you can run all over Wake Forest. They gave up 211 yards per game on the ground. 211, all right? This should be a big game for the Carolina running backs. You can also throw on this defense. They're giving up 223 yards through the air per game, okay? They're giving up a total of 5.7 yards per play. North Carolina on offense, 6.6 yards per play. They run the ball, 5.1 yards per play. On the other side, Wake Forest can run the football, 4.5 yards and 187 yards a game. North Carolina, equally, they can give up big plays in the running attack. 176 yards per game, 4.6 yards per rush. Wake, 5th best passing offense in the country. They can sling it. 9.7 yards per pass play, 320 yards a game. But Carolina's pass defense is not horrible. 221 yards per game given up. That's not bad. But when you start digging down a little bit deeper into what we're seeing here out of Wake Forest and how over the last couple of games, Wake Forest has been just like straight up horrible. And I mean, oh, by the way, it's 104-72 now, so I think our -9 is going to be safe. So it'll be a 1-1 night for us on so just down the juice, nothing serious. But I mean, Wake Forest is, over the last couple of games, it's staggering to look at Wake Forest defensively in what they are doing. Because Carolina, I mean, look, they've played a much more difficult caliber of opponent, and this is a noon kickoff time, by the way. But we're talking about 311 passing yards by Wake Forest given up, 183 rushing yards given up. This is 421 yards of offense they're giving up per game. Wake Forest's defense is not good. But they've won 45-7 to Duke, 70-56 to Army, 40-37 to Syracuse, Louisville 37-34 here, and Virginia 37-17. We talked about North Carolina already, but Carolina's schedule, it's just much tougher, much more difficult. A much higher caliber of opponent. And they've played Notre Dame, they played Georgia Tech, they played Virginia Tech, they lost that game, they took on Virginia, won that game 59-39. Look, everyone's on the over. I lean towards the under in this game, but I'm going to lay the -2.5 here for 1 unit, and I'm going to take North Carolina here. I'm going to go with the Tar Heels. It's my only college football play I'm going to make here. I like Carolina at home to stop this 8-0 train. It's a difficult story. Wake Forest has been incredibly lucky with turnovers, too. They're one of the better turnover teams in the country. I think that could stop because if they don't get turnovers, maybe they don't get as many easy points. They've got 2.3 takeaways a game. That's 5th best. But Carolina doesn't turn the ball a little bit, 1.4 times. Not a ton here in terms of giveaways. If Carolina does not turn the football over, and Wake doesn't get those short fields, and they can overcome a really poor defense, I'll take Sam Howell at home here in Chapel Hill to beat Wake Forest, laying the 2.5 points, short number for 1 unit. North Carolina minus 2.5 for 1 unit. All right, Discord bet. You guys have a whole slate of games to go in and get into. I'm all about combat sports today. College football is, there's plenty of games. Ole Miss, Liberty, A&M, Auburn, like I mentioned, some good games to jump into if you want. But for me, I'm all about the Saturday night fighting. Huge fighting day. Huge combat sports day. Okay? So just only one college football play. North Carolina minus 2.5 for 1 unit. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. I'll talk to you in the Discord channel later on this morning for our Discord wager and the Circa Daily Juice team conversation as well. Follow me on Twitter at SportsTalkMatt. Every morning it's a Daily Juice podcast being brought to you by BetMGM.